mind. And when the body becomes the mind, then when I said to change is to think greater than the body, what I mean by that is we have to think greater than the memorized emotions that the body has recognized or become familiar with.
Okay. So then these days people are under an enormous amount of stress, not only because of the current economic situation, but it's because of the information and the technology age, speeding things up faster and faster, constantly feeling or distracted. So what does stress do to the mind and the body?
Well, you know, stress is when the body's knocked out of balance. And when you're being chased by a lion, you know, thousands of years ago, you turned on a primitive nervous system to mobilize all of this energy to prepare you for some threat or event in your external environment. And when you mobilize all that energy, you're really saying, I got to take care of this body, I got to become aware of my environment, and how much time do I have to get there? So what was once high adaptive, which means if you're being chased by a lion, you better make sure that you have enough energy to either fight or run. But now if you're thinking about, you know, firing an employee, and you know that this person has a wife that's sick, and they have 4 children, and you know that they actually need the job more than the other person who's going to stay, and you begin to think about that over and over again, you're turning on the stress response just by thought alone. And what was once highly adaptive now becomes very maladaptive, because no organism in nature can survive under long-term stress.
Long-term stress.
Yeah.
There's a movie that you were in, it was great. It's called The People versus the State of Illusion. Really, really well done movie. And we actually have a clip of it that I want to show that illustrates or talks a little bit about the long-term stress effects in the body. Let's take a look at that.
According to the American Psychological Association, over 50% of deaths in the United States can be attributed to behavioral or social factors, the majority of which are rooted in stress. Stress damages the immune system and contributes to the onset of many diseases.
A major problem I think people have today is they're exhausted. The term stress is used a lot. They're stressed out. They think things are about moving faster and faster and doing more and more. When people often think about stress, they're thinking about something out there that's causing their stress. Their boss is being mean to them, their kids aren't picking up their cell phone. But interestingly, I think the real stress has to do with, as I've studied it over the years, it's internally created.
Most people live in stress. And when we live in stress, we live in survival. Stress is when the body's knocked out of normal homeostasis, when it's knocked out of normal balance. The stress response is what the body does innately to return itself back to order. So most organisms in nature are designed for short-term stress. Whether it's a beaver, a rabbit, a giraffe, a fly, every single organism has the ability to adapt to environmental conditions and produce a chemical change to deal with emergency. And so short-term stress is pretty much a function of survival. There is something called the long-term stress, and that is that when the body keeps being knocked out of balance and it doesn't have a chance to return back to order. We have all kinds of different stressors: traffic jams, internet connections, second mortgages, single parenting, and all of those reactions to the environment produce the same physiological response that produces stressful conditions. What makes us so unique is that we can make thought more real than anything else. That's the privilege of being a human being. Because we can begin to think about an event, we can put our awareness in the future and begin to forecast or expect something to happen. Because we can make thought more real than anything else, the moment we do that, we begin to turn the stress response in the body just by thought alone. And the repetition of that over time keeps the body out of balance, and that chronic stress then causes us to head for disease.
So